21 black celebrities who died from overdoses. Fame creates legends, but it also creates silence, pressure, and secrets. Behind the awards, the sold-out arenas, and the applause, many black icons were fighting battles no one applauded. These were not weak people. They were brilliant, resilient, and gifted, yet still vulnerable. Tonight, we're uncovering the stories the spotlight couldn't save. The moments where success collided with pain, addiction, and neglect. Stay with us until the end, because these stories demand more than sympathy, they demand reflection. If these stories matter to you, subscribe to Black Excellence Legends and tell us in the comments, did fame protect them or destroy them? Prince. Across 4 decades, he reshaped pop, funk, rock, and R&B, selling over 100 million records worldwide, winning 7 Grammy Awards, an Academy Award, and earning a permanent place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. From Purple Rain to Sign of the Times, his influence transcended genres, race, and generations. Yet behind the electrifying performances and relentless creativity existed a quieter, far more fragile reality. Years of physically demanding shows, high heels, acrobatics, marathon concerts left Prince with severe chronic pain, particularly in his hips and spine. Doctors advised hip replacement surgery, but his faith as a Jehovah's Witness led him to avoid procedures involving blood transfusions. Instead, he relied increasingly on prescription painkillers, a choice that would later prove fatal. On April 21, 2016, Prince was found unresponsive in an elevator at his Paisley Park estate in Minnesota. He was 57 years old. The medical examiner later confirmed the cause of death as an accidental overdose of fentanyl, a synthetic opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times more potent than morphine. Crucially, the fentanyl was traced to counterfeit pills, meaning Prince likely had no idea he was ingesting such a lethal substance. His death sent shockwaves through the world, not only because of who he was, but because of what it revealed. Even icons are vulnerable. Even geniuses can suffer silently. Prince's passing became part of a broader conversation about opioid misuse, counterfeit medications, and the immense pressure placed on performers to keep going at all costs. Today, his music remains timeless, fearless, defiant, alive. But his story stands as a stark reminder: brilliance does not grant immunity, and pain, when hidden long enough, can become deadly. David Ruffin. David Ruffin possessed a voice that could stop time. As the unmistakable lead singer of The Temptations, his gritty, emotional delivery helped define the sound of Motown in the 1960s. Songs like My Girl, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, and I Wish It Would Rain became cultural landmarks, and Ruffin's voice, raw, aching, and deeply human, was at the heart of them. Fame arrived fast, but stability never followed. After parting ways with The Temptations in 1968, Ruffin struggled to recreate the same level of success as a solo artist. The industry moved on quickly, and the spotlight that once followed him everywhere began to fade. As opportunities shrank, cocaine became a constant presence, slowly tightening its grip over the next 2 decades. Legal troubles, financial instability, and fractured relationships followed, eroding both his health and his support system. On May 31, 1991, after performing at a small event in Philadelphia, Ruffin spent the night at an apartment known for drug activity. There, he suffered a fatal cocaine overdose, triggering cardiac failure. Panicked companions rushed him to a nearby hospital, but instead of seeking immediate help, they abandoned him in the emergency room driveway and fled. By the time medical staff found him, David Ruffin was already dead. He was 50 years old. The tragedy was not only how he died, but how alone he was at the end. A man whose voice once filled arenas and defined a generation passed away without family, without fans, without dignity. Today, Ruffin's legacy endures through timeless music that still moves millions. His story is a sobering reminder that talent can open doors, but without care, support, and protection, it cannot shield someone from destruction. Phyllis Hyman. Phyllis Hyman sang with a voice that felt like confession. Deep, elegant, and emotionally precise, she stood apart in the worlds of soul, jazz, and R&B. Throughout the late 1970s and 1980s, her music carried vulnerability with uncommon grace, earning her critical acclaim and a devoted following. Yet while her voice conveyed strength, her private life was shaped by profound, emotional isolation. Despite professional success, Hyman battled chronic depression, low self-worth, and a deep fear of abandonment. She spoke openly about feeling unloved and unseen beyond the stage lights. Romantic relationships often ended painfully, reinforcing a sense of loneliness that fame could not erase. Even as she continued performing, the emotional weight she carried grew heavier. On June 30th, 1995, just hours before a scheduled performance at the Apollo Theater, Phyllis Hyman was found dead in her New York apartment. She had consumed a lethal combination of prescription sleeping pills and alcohol. A handwritten note discovered nearby revealed years of emotional pain and exhaustion. She was 45 years old. Unlike many overdose cases driven by excess or chaos, Hyman's death reflected something quieter, despair that had gone unnoticed for too long. Friends recall that she seemed calm in her final days, a common and dangerous sign among those who have already made their decision. The music world was stunned. A voice still rich, still powerful, was suddenly gone. Phyllis Hyman left behind songs filled with honesty and emotional depth, works that continue to resonate with listeners who hear their own struggles reflected in her voice. Her story underscores a painful truth. Success does not cure loneliness, and even the most beautiful voices can fall silent when pain is carried alone. Rick James. Rick James lived loudly, unapologetically, and entirely on his own terms. As the architect of a raw, electrified brand of funk, he dominated the late 1970s and early 1980s with hits like Super Freak, Give It To Me Baby, and Mary Jane. His music blurred the line between rebellion and brilliance, influencing generations of artists across funk, hip-hop, and pop. But the same excess that fueled his creativity also eroded his health. James rose quickly, and with fame came a lifestyle built around constant motion. Endless touring, late nights in the studio, and relentless pressure to stay relevant. Over time, substance use became deeply embedded in his daily routine, initially as a stimulant to keep working, and later as a way to manage physical pain and emotional burnout. Years of intense living took a visible toll on his body, while legal issues and public controversies damaged his career momentum. On August 6, 2004, Rick James was found dead in his Los Angeles home. He was 56 years old. The coroner's report revealed multiple substances in his system, including cocaine, methamphetamine, and prescription medications. The cause of death was ruled heart failure, triggered by long-term substance abuse and acute toxicity. It was not a single moment of excess, but the cumulative weight of decades of strain that ultimately overwhelmed his body. Rick James left behind more than scandal or spectacle. He left a sound, bold, fearless, and unmistakable, that continues to pulse through modern music. His story serves as a reminder that creative fire, when left unchecked, can burn the very person who ignites it. Genius may thrive in chaos, but survival demands balance, something Rick James never truly found. Shock G. Shock G was never interested in fitting neatly into hip-hop's expectations. As the founder and creative engine of Digital Underground, he brought humor, funk, and alter ego storytelling into rap at a time when the genre was still defining itself. His work not only produced iconic tracks like the Humpty Dance, but also helped introduce Tupac Shakur to the world. Behind the playful persona, however, was a man quietly wrestling with isolation. As musical trends shifted, Shock G found himself increasingly distant from the mainstream spotlight. The industry that once celebrated his innovation moved on, leaving him to navigate relevance, finances, and personal identity without the structure he once had. Over the years, substance use became a coping mechanism, especially as periods of loneliness and instability intensified. On April 22, 2021, Shock G was found unresponsive in a hotel room in Tampa, Florida. He was 57 years old. An autopsy later confirmed that his death resulted from accidental intoxication, involving a combination of alcohol and other substances that led to respiratory failure. There was no sign of foul play, only a familiar pattern of quiet struggle reaching a fatal conclusion. Shock G's legacy lies not only in chart success, but in creative freedom. He challenged hip-hop to be weird, playful, and experimental without losing credibility. His passing highlighted a painful reality of the music world. Innovation does not guarantee longevity, and artists who operate outside the mainstream often carry their battles alone. Though his voice is gone, his influence remains woven into the DNA of modern hip-hop. Unorthodox, fearless, and impossible to replicate. Frankie Lymon. Frankie Lymon was a phenomenon before he was old enough to understand what fame truly meant. At just 13 years old, his soaring, youthful voice turned "Why Do Fools Fall in Love" into a national sensation, making him one of the youngest stars in American music history. Overnight, Frankie became a symbol of innocence and promise, touring relentlessly while still navigating adolescence. But as his voice matured, the industry's fascination faded. The qualities that once made him extraordinary were no longer marketable, and the support system surrounding him quietly dissolved. Struggling to reclaim relevance, Frankie found himself caught between a past he could never return to and a future that felt uncertain. During this vulnerable period, heroin entered his life, first as an escape, then as an anchor, dragging him downward. Despite multiple attempts at recovery and moments of optimism, the addiction proved relentless. In early 1968, Frankie appeared to be on the brink of renewal, with discussions of new music and a possible comeback circulating. Yet the physical toll of long-term substance use had already weakened him beyond repair. On February 27, 1968, Frankie Lymon was found dead at his grandmother's home in Harlem. He had suffered a fatal heroin overdose. He was 25 years old. The news stunned fans who still remembered the joyful voice that once filled radios across the country. Frankie's story is one of lost protection. He was celebrated as a child, but abandoned as an adult. His brief life exposed the dangers of early fame without guidance, structure, or long-term care. Though his career was short, his influence remains etched into music history, a reminder of how quickly brilliance can rise and how tragically it can fall when left unguarded. Donny Hathaway. Donny Hathaway possessed one of the most emotionally resonant voices of the 1970s. His performances carried warmth, vulnerability, and technical mastery, earning him widespread admiration through songs like "A Song for You" and his celebrated collaborations with Roberta Flack. To audiences, he appeared composed and deeply expressive. Privately, however, Donny was fighting a battle far more complex than fame. Hathaway was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, a condition that intensified over time. He experienced severe delusions, believing that unseen forces were controlling his thoughts and movements. While medication offered some relief, it also caused side effects that interfered with his creativity and sense of self. The tension between artistic clarity and mental stability became increasingly difficult to manage. By the late 1970s, Donny's condition had worsened. Though he continued working, including sessions for a planned comeback album, the psychological strain grew overwhelming. On January 13, 1979, while staying at a hotel in New York City, Hathaway suffered a profound mental breakdown. In the early hours of the morning, he fell from his hotel room window, dying instantly. He was 33 years old. Authorities ruled the death a suicide, linked directly to his long struggle with mental illness rather than substance misuse. Donny Hathaway's death forced the music world to confront an uncomfortable truth. Extraordinary talent does not shield someone from psychiatric suffering. His legacy endures not only in his recordings, but in the awareness his story brings to mental health, especially among artists expected to pour emotion into their work while hiding their own pain. His voice remains timeless, echoing both beauty and fragility. Ike Turner. Ike Turner was a foundational figure in modern American music, long before his name became synonymous with controversy. As a band leader, songwriter, and producer, he played a critical role in shaping early rock and roll. His 1951 recording, Rocket 88, is widely regarded as one of the genre's earliest landmarks, influencing countless artists who followed. Turner's musical intelligence was undeniable, but his personal life was marked by volatility and excess. Decades of non-stop touring, studio work, and industry pressure fostered a lifestyle built on stimulants and self-medication. Turner later admitted to long-term dependence on cocaine and other substances, habits that began early in his career and persisted for much of his life. Over time, the physical consequences accumulated quietly, even as public attention focused more on his reputation than his health. In his later years, Ike lived largely out of the spotlight in California. Friends and assistants noted that he appeared increasingly withdrawn, aware that his body was failing. On December 12, 2007, Ike Turner was found dead in his home in San Marcos, California. He was 76 years old. The official cause of death was complications related to long-term substance abuse, contributing to cardiovascular failure. Turner's passing closed a chapter filled with contradiction. He was both a pioneer and a cautionary figure, someone whose musical contributions helped shape an entire industry, while his personal struggles illustrated the destructive cost of unchecked behavior. Today, his influence is undeniable, heard in rock, blues, and soul. But his story also stands as a reminder that legacy is shaped not only by talent, but by the choices made beyond the stage. Jimi Hendrix. Gerald Levert carried soul in his voice and responsibility on his shoulders. As the son of Eddie Levert of the O'Jays, he inherited a musical legacy but forged a sound entirely his own. Through the late 1980s and 1990s, Gerald became one of R&B's most reliable hitmakers, known for his commanding vocals and emotional clarity on songs like Casanova and Baby Hold On to Me. His music spoke directly to love, vulnerability, and adult relationships, themes that resonated deeply with audiences. Behind the confidence, Gerald lived with chronic physical pain, a condition that worsened as years of touring and studio work accumulated. To remain functional, he relied on prescription pain medication, taken under medical supervision, but gradually increasing in strength. Friends and family later recalled that he often minimized his discomfort, determined not to slow down despite warning signs. On November 10, 2006, Gerald Levert was found unresponsive in his Cleveland area home. He was 40 years old. The coroner ruled his death an accidental overdose caused by a combination of prescription medications that led to respiratory failure. There was no evidence of illicit drug use or intentional harm, only a tragic interaction between pain, medication, and the body's limits. Gerald's death stunned the music world. He was still actively recording, mentoring younger artists, and performing at a high level. His passing highlighted a growing issue within the entertainment industry: the quiet dangers of prescription dependency, even when medications are taken as directed. Today, Gerald Levert is remembered for honesty in his music and in his life. His voice remains a fixture in R&B history, while his story continues to raise awareness about pain management, accountability, and the unseen risks carried by those who refuse to stop working. Gerald Levert. Old Dirty Bastard was chaos with purpose. As a founding member of Wu-Tang Clan, he brought unpredictability and raw emotion to hip-hop, refusing polish in favor of authenticity. His delivery was unfiltered, erratic, and deeply personal, a stark contrast to the structured precision of his peers. ODB didn't just rap, he unraveled on record, turning disorder into art. Outside the studio, that same volatility defined his life. Legal issues, financial instability, and ongoing struggles with substance dependence repeatedly pulled him away from music. Despite attempts at rehabilitation and periods of recovery, stability remained elusive. Fame amplified his impulses, while accountability often arrived too late. On November 13, 2004, Old Dirty Bastard collapsed inside a New York recording studio while working on new material. He was 35 years old. An autopsy later confirmed that his death was caused by acute intoxication, resulting in heart failure triggered by a mixture of substances, including cocaine and prescription drugs. The loss was devastating for the hip-hop community. ODB represented a form of creative freedom that could not be replicated or restrained. His presence within Wu-Tang was essential, not because he followed rules, but because he broke them instinctively. Old Dirty Bastard's legacy remains complex. He is remembered as both a warning and a triumph, proof that raw honesty can reshape culture, but also that unchecked struggle can consume even the most original voices. His music endures as a snapshot of unfiltered expression, reminding listeners that genius without balance often walks a dangerous line. Old Dirty Bastard. Old Dirty Bastard was never designed for containment. Born Russell Tyrone Jones, he emerged as the most unpredictable force within Wu-Tang Clan, a group already reshaping hip-hop's boundaries. While others focused on structure and lyricism, ODB thrived on instinct. His performances felt volatile, impulsive, and painfully honest, turning vulnerability into a defining aesthetic rather than a weakness. That same unpredictability defined his life beyond music. Fame arrived quickly, but stability did not follow. ODB struggled with ongoing legal issues, financial hardship, and persistent substance dependence, all unfolding in full public view. Attempts at rehabilitation were intermittent, often disrupted by incarceration or relapse. The industry celebrated his originality, but offered little protection from the consequences of constant exposure and scrutiny. On November 13, 2004, Old Dirty Bastard collapsed inside a Manhattan recording studio while working on new material. Emergency responders pronounced him dead shortly after. He was 35 years old. The medical examiner ruled the cause of death acute intoxication, resulting from a mixture of cocaine and prescription medications, which triggered sudden cardiac failure. His death sent shockwaves through hip-hop. ODB represented a form of authenticity that could not be rehearsed or replicated. He did not conform to expectations, artistic or personal, and paid a heavy price for living without restraint. Today, Old Dirty Bastard is remembered as both a cultural icon and a cautionary tale. His music remains raw, emotional, and unmistakably human. His story underscores a harsh truth. Originality can change culture, but without structure, support, and care, it can also accelerate self-destruction. ODB's voice still echoes, chaotic, fearless, and permanently etched into hip-hop history. DMX. DMX carried pain into the spotlight and refused to soften it. With a voice that sounded torn from lived experience, he rose to prominence in the late 1990s, dominating charts with albums that blended aggression, spirituality, and vulnerability. Tracks like Rough Riders Anthem and Slippin' revealed an artist unafraid to expose his inner conflict, making him one of hip-hop's most emotionally transparent figures. Behind the success, DMX, born Earl Simmons, battled long-term addiction, rooted in early trauma and reinforced by fame's relentless pressure. His career unfolded alongside repeated arrests, rehabilitation attempts, and public struggles that became inseparable from his narrative. Despite periods of sobriety, the cycle proved difficult to break, even as he continued performing and recording. On April 2, 2021, DMX suffered a drug-induced cardiac arrest at his home in New York. He was rushed to the hospital but sustained severe oxygen deprivation, resulting in catastrophic brain damage. After a week on life support, he died on April 9, 2021, at 50 years old. The reaction was global. Fans, artists, and cultural figures mourned not only the loss of a rapper, but the loss of a voice that articulated struggle without filters. DMX's music resonated because it was honest, faith alongside fear, strength alongside collapse. His legacy endures as proof that vulnerability can be powerful, but also dangerous when left unsupported. DMX did not hide his demons. He confronted them publicly. His story remains a reminder that openness alone is not enough. Healing requires sustained care, compassion, and time. Michael K. Williams. Michael K. Williams built his legacy by giving voice to society's forgotten edges. Best known for portraying Omar Little on The Wire, Williams brought rare depth and humanity to characters often reduced to stereotypes. His performances were fearless, layered, and deeply empathetic, earning him critical acclaim and multiple Emmy nominations. Yet the realism he brought to the screen was shaped by a life marked by struggle long before Hollywood recognition arrived. Before acting, Williams survived homelessness and battled addiction, experiences that later informed his work. Even after achieving success, he remained candid about his ongoing recovery journey. He spoke openly about relapse, emphasizing how addiction is not erased by fame, money, or artistic fulfillment. The pressure of sustained visibility, combined with isolation during the COVID-19 pandemic, intensified vulnerabilities he had spent years managing. On September 6, 2021, Michael K. Williams was found dead in his Brooklyn apartment. He was 54 years old. An official investigation concluded that his death resulted from accidental drug intoxication, involving a combination of substances, including fentanyl. There was no evidence of foul play, only the devastating impact of an increasingly dangerous, illicit drug supply. Williams's death resonated far beyond entertainment. He was admired not only for his talent, but for his honesty and advocacy around mental health and recovery. His passing underscored a painful reality. Even those who understand addiction deeply are not immune to its risks. Michael K. Williams left behind performances that continue to challenge audiences to see humanity where it is often ignored. His story remains a powerful reminder that compassion, support, and vigilance are essential, especially for those who appear strong on the surface but carry invisible weight. Pimp C. Pimp C was a pillar of Southern hip-hop, outspoken, principled, and unapologetically authentic. As one half of UGK, Underground Kings, he helped define the sound and identity of Southern rap, blending raw storytelling with sharp social commentary. His voice carried authority, not because it demanded attention, but because it spoke truth without compromise. Despite professional success, Pimp C struggled with personal challenges, including periods of incarceration and ongoing health issues. He was open about his battles with depression and substance use, particularly involving codeine-based cough syrup, a substance deeply embedded in Southern hip-hop culture at the time. Compounding the risk, Pimp C suffered from sleep apnea, a condition that made respiratory suppression especially dangerous. On December 4, 2007, Pimp C was found unresponsive in a Los Angeles hotel room. He was 33 years old. The autopsy determined that his death was caused by respiratory failure, brought on by the combined effects of codeine intoxication and sleep apnea. The ruling was accidental, highlighting the lethal consequences of substance interaction with pre-existing medical conditions. His death sent shockwaves through the hip-hop community. Pimp C was widely respected not only as an artist, but as a mentor and outspoken advocate for creative independence. His absence left a void that extended beyond music charts. Pimp C's legacy endures through his uncompromising voice and lasting influence on Southern rap. His story stands as a stark warning about the dangers of normalized substance use and the critical importance of addressing underlying health conditions before they become fatal. Heavy D projected joy, confidence, and warmth at a time when hip-hop was still carving out its identity. As the frontman of Heavy D and the Boys, he helped bring rap into the mainstream during the late 1980s and early 1990s, blending rhythmic lyricism with danceable production. Songs like Now That We Found Love and Somebody For Me made hip-hop feel accessible without stripping away its authenticity. Behind the upbeat image, Heavy D lived a physically demanding life. Years of touring, long flights, irregular sleep, and fluctuating weight placed stress on his cardiovascular system. In the months leading up to his death, he had been traveling extensively between the United States and Europe, a routine that can increase the risk of circulatory complications. On November 8, 2011, shortly after returning from London, Heavy D experienced shortness of breath and chest discomfort at his home in Beverly Hills. He collapsed near his front door. Emergency responders transported him to the hospital, but efforts to save him were unsuccessful. He was 44 years old. The official cause of death was a pulmonary embolism, a sudden blockage of blood flow to the lungs. Medical findings later suggested that recent use of anti-inflammatory medication may have contributed to the formation of the clot. Heavy D's passing shocked the music world because it came without warning. He was active, optimistic, and planning new projects. His death shifted conversations toward the hidden health risks faced by performers whose careers demand constant motion. Heavy D is remembered not only for his music, but for his character. He was widely respected for kindness, professionalism, and leadership. His legacy continues as a reminder that even those who radiate strength and positivity must listen to their bodies before silence replaces sound. Charlie Parker changed music by refusing to follow its rules. Known as Bird, he redefined jazz through bebop, transforming improvisation into a fast, complex, and intellectually demanding art form. His saxophone lines were revolutionary, unpredictable yet precise, pushing musicians toward new technical and emotional heights. Parker's influence reshaped jazz forever, but his brilliance came at a devastating cost. From a young age, Parker struggled with addiction, first to alcohol and later to heroin. The pressures of relentless touring, racial discrimination, and the expectation to constantly innovate intensified his dependency. Though he experienced moments of recovery, the cycle repeatedly returned, weakening his health over time. Chronic illness, malnutrition, and exhaustion became constant companions. On March 12, 1955, Charlie Parker died in a New York City apartment belonging to his close friend and patron. He was 34 years old, though the medical examiner initially believed him to be decades older due to the severe condition of his body. The official cause of death was heart failure and pneumonia, conditions exacerbated by years of substance abuse and physical deterioration. Parker's death marked one of the greatest losses in jazz history. He left behind unfinished ideas, unheard melodies, and an artistic path others would spend generations exploring. Yet his work remains foundational, studied by musicians worldwide. Charlie Parker's life illustrates the fragile boundary between innovation and survival. His music continues to inspire freedom and expression, while his story stands as a sobering reminder that genius, when paired with neglect, can burn out long before its time. Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday did not simply sing songs, she embodied them. Her voice carried pain, defiance, and vulnerability in a way that permanently altered the emotional language of jazz. Through performances like Strange Fruit, she transformed music into testimony, confronting racism and suffering with haunting clarity. Her influence reached far beyond technique. She changed how truth could sound. Yet the same world that celebrated her talent repeatedly failed to protect her. Holiday endured years of abuse, discrimination, and exploitation, both personally and professionally. These experiences left deep scars, and over time, she turned to substances as a means of coping. Addiction followed her into adulthood, entangling with health issues that worsened as her career progressed. In her final years, Holiday's physical condition deteriorated rapidly due to advanced liver disease, a consequence of long-term substance use. On July 17, 1959, she died in a New York City hospital at 44 years old. Disturbingly, she spent her final days under police guard, arrested while hospitalized after narcotics were allegedly found in her room. Despite her fragile condition, she was denied compassionate treatment and dignity at the end of her life. Billie Holiday's death exposed the cruelty of a system that criminalized addiction while profiting from talent. Her voice was silenced not only by illness, but by institutional neglect and racial injustice. Yet her legacy endures powerfully. Each note she recorded remains a reminder that vulnerability can be revolutionary. Billie Holiday's story is not only about loss, but about resilience. Her music continues to challenge listeners to feel deeply, confront uncomfortable truths, and remember that brilliance often survives, even when the person behind it does not. Little Willie John. Little Willie John possessed a voice far bigger than his frame. Sharp, expressive, and emotionally commanding. Best known for Fever, he helped lay the foundation for soul and R&B, influencing generations of singers who followed. At his peak, his performances radiated intensity and control, earning admiration across the music industry. Despite his talent, Willie John's career unraveled quickly. Alcohol abuse, volatile behavior, and mounting legal troubles overshadowed his musical achievements. In 1964, he was convicted of manslaughter following a nightclub altercation and sentenced to prison. Behind bars, his health declined steadily, worsened by poor conditions and limited medical care. On May 26, 1968, Little Willie John died in prison at 30 years old. The official cause of death was listed as pneumonia, though questions lingered about the adequacy of treatment he received. His passing was quiet, largely unnoticed by an industry that had already moved on. The tragedy of Willie John's life lies not only in how it ended, but in how swiftly he was discarded. A voice that helped shape modern music faded without ceremony, support, or justice. Yet his influence lived on. Fever alone became a standard, reinterpreted by countless artists across genres. Little Willie John's story reveals how talent can be elevated and abandoned with equal speed. His legacy reminds us that innovation often comes from fragile lives, and that without care, even the most powerful voices can be lost too soon. Ray Charles. Ray Charles was a pioneer who redefined the sound of American music. Blind from childhood, he transformed adversity into innovation, blending gospel, blues, jazz, and country into a style that reshaped popular culture. Songs like Georgia on My Mind, What Did I Say, and Hit the Road, Jack did more than dominate charts. They dismantled musical boundaries and racial barriers alike. Ray Charles did not follow trends, he created them. Behind the groundbreaking success, however, lay a long and complicated struggle. During the 1950s and early 1960s, Charles battled a severe heroin addiction while working at an intense pace. Unlike many of his peers, he eventually confronted the problem directly. In 1965, after being arrested on drug charges, he entered rehabilitation and successfully achieved sobriety. From that point forward, he remained drug-free for the rest of his life, a fact often overlooked but essential to understanding his story. Even after overcoming addiction, the physical consequences of earlier years remained. Decades later, Charles suffered from chronic liver disease, which gradually weakened his health. On June 10, 2004, Ray Charles died at his home in Beverly Hills at 73 years old. The official cause of death was complications related to liver failure. Ray Charles's life stands apart from many tragedy narratives. His story is not defined by collapse, but by endurance. He demonstrated that recovery was possible even in an era with little support or understanding of addiction. His legacy endures not only through timeless music, but through the example he set, proving that survival, growth, and reinvention can follow even the darkest chapters. Marvin Sease. Marvin Sease built his career on emotional honesty rather than polish. Known widely as the king of dirty blues, he embraced raw storytelling, unapologetic sensuality, and deep Southern soul. His music spoke directly to adult experiences, love, betrayal, regret, resonating strongly with audiences who felt unseen by mainstream R&B. Sease's voice carried grit, vulnerability, and lived experience. Unlike many artists who achieved sudden fame, Sease's success arrived later in life. That delayed recognition brought its own challenges. Years of financial instability, touring strain, and personal hardship took a toll on his health. While he had struggled with substance use earlier in life, his later years were dominated by chronic illness, particularly severe respiratory issues that worsened over time. In early 2011, Marvin Sease's condition deteriorated rapidly. He experienced persistent coughing, difficulty breathing, and increasing weakness, forcing him to cancel performances. On February 8, 2011, he died at his home in Mississippi at 64 years old. The official cause of death was complications from pneumonia. Although rumors occasionally linked his passing to past drug use, medical reports confirmed pneumonia as the direct cause. However, long-term health strain likely contributed to his vulnerability. Sease's death marked the quiet end of a voice that had spoken candidly about pain and pleasure alike. Marvin Sease left behind a legacy rooted in authenticity. He refused to soften his truth for wider acceptance, and in doing so, carved out a lasting place in Southern soul history. His story reminds us that recognition does not erase hardship, and that honesty, even when uncomfortable, can become its own form of immortality. Dina Washington. Dina Washington commanded attention with a voice that balanced power and precision. Crowned the Queen of the Blues, she possessed a rare ability to move effortlessly between jazz, blues, and pop, delivering each lyric with emotional clarity and technical control. By the late 1950s, she had become one of the most successful Black female recording artists in America, earning widespread acclaim for songs like What a Difference a Day Makes and Unforgettable. Her success was undeniable, but it came at a cost. Washington's career unfolded at an exhausting pace. Constant touring, recording sessions, and public expectations left little room for rest or stability. Privately, she struggled with insomnia, anxiety, and physical exhaustion. To cope, she relied on prescription medications, a common but poorly regulated practice during the era. Like many performers of her time, she also used alcohol, unaware of how dangerous these combinations could be. On December 14, 1963, Dina Washington was found unresponsive in her Detroit home by her husband. She was 39 years old. An autopsy determined that her death was caused by an accidental overdose involving a mixture of prescription sleeping pills and alcohol. There was no evidence of intentional harm, only the fatal consequences of substances interacting in a body already worn down by years of strain. Washington's sudden death shocked the music world. She was still recording, still charting, still evolving artistically. Her passing highlighted the lack of medical oversight and mental health support available to performers, particularly women, during that period. Dina Washington's legacy endures through her recordings, which continue to influence vocalists across genres. Her story stands as a reminder that extraordinary talent does not eliminate vulnerability, and that behind even the strongest voices can exist a fragile human cost, paid in silence. After hearing these stories, one question remains uncomfortable but necessary. Were these deaths inevitable or preventable? Was the music industry built to elevate Black excellence or to consume it until nothing remained? Talent was never the problem. Support, protection, and accountability were. These legends gave the world everything, but who was truly looking out for them when the lights went out? Join the conversation below and share your perspective. Your voice matters here. If this series challenged the way you see fame, loss, and legacy, subscribe to Black Excellence Legends, where we honor greatness, question systems, and refuse to forget.